Thousands of workers in 3 agencies of the aviation industry on May Day defied the early morning rain in Lagos, southwest Nigeria, to march against the federal government's decision to lump the regulatory agency and service providers together. Government and in recent times drawn condemnation from majority of the workforce over what many describe as an action that is inimical to the development of the country's aviation sector. It's on this issue that we once more turn our attention. Welcome to the program Aviation This Week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi.
On the home front, the federal government has introduced new measures to restrict the movement of people, including VIPs in sensitive parts of the 5 international airports in the country, in the face of the current security threats in the country. The new measures, which will take effect on May 1, 2014, require that all visitors to Nigeria, including foreign dignitaries and officials of multilateral institutions, to submit themselves to immigration officers for the requisite scrutiny and clearance at the 5 designated international airports in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, and Enugu. The President's Special Advisor on Performance Monitoring and Evaluation, Professor Sylvester Monye, while addressing journalists at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, said the new security arrangement at the airports will be enforced by security officials. From new rules to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority's audit of 18 foreign and domestic airlines in the country. The wholesale security audit was based on emerging threats, previous findings and incidents to forestall recurrences. This exercise is carried out periodically among all holders of an approved security program to ascertain the level of compliance of airlines. Airlines are not the only bodies facing audits, as the regulatory agency has approved security programs for 22 airports in Nigeria. This is in line with Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulation Part 17 requirements and the National Civil Aviation Security Program. The Airport Security Program is reviewed intermittently and subject to International Civil Aviation Organization amendment of Annex 17 in response to the global threat to civil aviation. On the foreign turf, aircraft manufacturer Boeing and Ryanair have finalized an order for 5 additional next-generation 737s valued at $452 million at list prices. This announcement brings the total number of unfilled next-generation 737 orders for the Ireland-based ultra-low-cost carrier to 180 airplanes. The airline says the addition of these highly efficient airplanes will help provide customers with additional options when it comes to planning their travel. The airline had earlier placed an order for 175 of the airplanes. Ryanair is the world's largest 737-800 customer, with orders placed for 528 of the type to date. From aircraft orders to border hitches, this time passengers entering the UK through air and seaports late in the week faced long delays as an IT glitch struck the border defense computer system. Border guards were unable to scan passports, being forced to input data manually, with long queues developing at Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted and Birmingham airports. Seaports at Dover and Southampton were also affected. A statement from Immigration Minister James Brockenshire said, quote, "The current situation is much improved and we are doing our best to keep waiting times to a minimum during the busy period. The delays had a particular impact on non-EU passengers, with extra border force staff called in to try to reduce the queuing time." Now to latest airline alliances, where Sri Lankan Airlines has now become part of One World, offering a full range of services and benefits of the world's fastest growing and highest rated global airline alliance. It is the first carrier from the South Asian subcontinent to join any of the global airline alliances 15 years after its launch. These landmarks were celebrated at a ceremony attended by the key ministers from Sri Lanka's government as South Asia's newest international airport Hambantottas Rajapaksa International, serving Sri Lanka's southern and eastern coast. With Sri Lankan, One World serves almost 1,000 airports in 150 countries with 14,250 daily departures and carries more than 500 million passengers a year on a combined fleet of some 3,300 aircraft.
It's time to take a short break. Aviation This Week will return shortly.
The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is the regulatory body for aviation in Nigeria. It became autonomous with the passing into law of the Civil Aviation Act 2006 by the National Assembly and assented to by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Act not only empowers the authority to regulate aviation safety without political interference, but also to carry out oversight functions of airports, airspace, meteorological services, as well as economic regulations of the industry, among other things. The NCAA has just faced a re-audit exercise of the CAT1 rating it obtained in August 2010. While the NCAA is the apex regulatory body in the country, the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency (NAMA) is an air navigation service provider with a mandate to manage the Nigerian airspace to a level consistent with the requirements of the International Civil Aviation Organization standard and recommended practices. The agency is also designed to increase air traffic management capacity in order to manage the increasing air traffic volume and simultaneously reduce delays to enhance service quality and reduce cost for airspace users. Finally, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency (NIMET) came into existence by an act of the National Assembly. The Establishment Act of 2003, enacted on May 21, 2003, became effective on June 19th, also the same year, following a presidential assent. It is a federal government agency charged with the responsibility to advise the government on all aspects of meteorology, project, prepare and interpret government policy in the field of meteorology, and to use weather and climate forecasts for the safe operations of aircrafts, ocean-going vessels and oil rigs. The Act also makes it the responsibility of the agency to observe, collate, collect, process and disseminate all meteorological data and information within and outside, coordinate research activities among members of staff, and publish scientific papers in the various branches of meteorology in support of sustainable socio-economic activities in Nigeria.
The aviation unions say their voice must be heard loud and clear, with an emphasis on why the regulator cannot be lumped with two service providers. Here is the National Officer of the Air Transport Senior Staff Association, ATSAN, Emmanuel Chukwu, on the issue.
We have written letters, stakeholders, other stakeholders, the media has been awash with information. Well, we don't know how many of it has been heard by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we are using the occasion of our May Day, which I know the President will be watching his television or watching the workers somewhere, which I know the senators will also be watching, the ministers will also be watching. All the interests and opinion leaders of Nigeria will also be watching. So if they will be watching, we want them to see that the people who mean well to Nigeria, the aviation workers, are saying no to the merger of the operator and the regulator. Because you cannot merge one of the 8 critical elements, this with the primary legislation and also the regulation of the industry. ICAO talks about having an independent regulatory body that will have the capacity, the trained manpower to regulate the industry effectively. Recently, we have been able to achieve a ICAO rating that is very, very interesting, and we have gone through FAA categorization, and FAA had rated us a Category 1 environment, which is the best that you can rate in the world. And that is what they want to somersault. And we are saying in some of our barrels, don't take Nigerian aviation industry 20 years backwards, because we know where we are coming from. The workers in this environment, in aviation, have worked hard to see that Nigeria attains FAA Category 1. And can you understand that this same policy came out just as even ICAO was still, FAA was still in Nigeria, dealing with recertification of our aviation environment. So it is something that we felt is quite not in the interest of the nation. So we are just doing this for the nation first of all, not even for ourselves, because we are interested in the national growth, and that's why we have worked so hard to achieve that. We have seen that something is happening, but we needed more. We needed something to be done also in line with the standards. What to be a Category 1 environment actually? If you go outside, now our aviation industry can be compared with what is happening out there, but we want to be effectively compared, that we have an aviation environment that is safe and secured. Security and safety is the strength of aviation. And those are the things we wanted to be talking about. The workers need to be paid well. And we're also going to draw the attention of the government to the plight of the Nigeria Airways disengaged workers. Those Nigeria Airways workers that were disengaged, till today they have been promised, severally we have been promised they will pay them. But nothing has been paid. They are dying in their numbers. We cannot go for burials of those Nigeria Airways, and it is hunger and starvation. Their children are out of school. Many decadent things happening to them. They were terminated in cold blood. Nigeria Airways was killed in cold blood because the resources of Nigeria Airways can power 2 airlines or more international airlines. But look at the Ikeja GRA. The whole of the Ikeja GRA is half of the Ikeja GRA belong to Nigeria Airways. If you have sold those structures alone, you can float 5 airlines in a day. If you talk about the properties they had in international community, if you dispose some of those properties, you can have an airline. So Nigeria Airways was not distressed at all. They were murdered in cold blood. And that is one of our agitation. That is one of our constraints. That's one of our pains. And we are regretting it today. So we are saying the workers in Nigeria have not benefited much to the extent they have given. We have been giving, we are not seeing them. And that's why anybody can wake up and say, merge all of them. As if we are just imagining. One day, if we don't say something, they will merge presidential fleet with aero contractors. They will merge Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority with National Union of Road Transport Workers. They don't think about us anymore. They just merge anything. So we are saying no to merger. No to merger.